Morning, everyone. The February 22nd, 2021 council briefing meeting will come to order. The time is 9:30 a.m. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Sawant.
Here.
Strauss.
Present.
Herbold. Juarez. Councilmember Juarez.
Here.
Thank you. Lewis.
Present.
Morales.
Here.
Mosqueda. Peterson.
Here.
Council President Gonzalez.
Here.
7 present.
Thank you so much. If there is no objection, the minutes of February 16th, 2021 will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the minutes are adopted. President's report. I don't have anything to report today, so I'm going to lead us right into agenda item 3, which is an update on our state legislative session and related agenda. So I'm going to hand it over to Director Lily Wilson-Codega to walk us through introductions for the record and the presentation. Good morning.
Good morning. Lily Wilson-Codega, Office of Intergovernmental Relations. I'm going to pass it along to our Deputy Director, Robin Koski.
Robin Koski, Office of Intergovernmental Relations. Handing to Quinn.
Quinn Majeski, Office of Intergovernmental Relations. I'll pass it off to Hannah.
Hannah Smith, Office of Intergovernmental Relations.
Thank you, team, and good morning, Council President Gonzalez, council members. We are before you today with a state legislative update now, maybe a little closer than I said the last time to being halfway done, almost halfway done with the 2021 virtual session ending on April 25th. We have passed some major milestones at this point in session. In the 105-day session, House of Origin Policy Committee cutoff, the deadline for bills to pass out of the committees they are introduced in, and today marks the Fiscal Committee cutoff in the House of Origin, where bills that have a potential budget impact need to get out of appropriations, ways and means, transportation committees, et cetera, for them to stay alive in the 2021 session. Also, just to flag around the corner, we have House of Origin floor cutoff coming up on Tuesday after next, which is March 9th. And in the coming weeks before House of Origin cutoff, we can expect a lot of floor action with legislators in both chambers working long hours to advance bills on COVID recovery, climate change equity, police accountability, and housing. Thanks to many council members for your engagement in the progressive revenue and housing space recently. Appreciate a lot of the communications that you've had with some budget writers. And notably, Senate Ways and Means approved a new tax on the sale of high profit stocks and bonds or capital gains last Tuesday evening, which Revenue Coalition partners are heralding as a major step in the long effort to make our tax code less regressive in Washington state. So congratulations to you all for your efforts there. And I also wanted to thank many of you on council for your efforts and assistance as we work through some very challenging dynamics around arbitration reform as it impacts policing here in Seattle. We're very grateful for your leadership there. We're going to continue to need to work closely with many of you. So much appreciation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our State Relations Director, Quinn Majeski.
Thank you, Lily, and thanks everyone for having us this morning. As Lily mentioned, the big news in the budget and revenue space is that Senate Democrats unveiled and passed out of committee their capital gains tax proposal. To summarize briefly, it is similar in many ways to what we've seen from the governor and the House, although there are some differences. The Senate's proposal is a 7% tax on capital gains. It exempts anything below $250,000. I would note that exemption applies regardless of whether you're a single or joint filer, so there's not a different rate if you're filing single or jointly. It also exempts retirement savings, all real estate transactions, and it also creates a similar exemption to what the House put forward for small family-owned businesses. The exemption there is for business sales under $6 million. As opposed to the House's proposal, which is under $10 million. The Senate's proposal also directs the funds, provides specific direction for the revenues that are raised. It stipulates that $350 million must go to the Education Legacy Trust Fund account, with the intention there of funding early learning and childcare investments. The specific investments are not stipulated, but that is the goal. And then the remaining funds would go towards the taxpayer relief account. Again, the details are not stipulated within the legislation, but from the hearing, it sounds like the intent is to provide some form of tax relief, either through reductions in more regressive taxes or through funding of programs like the Working Families Tax Credit. That is really the only update in the budget and revenue space, so I will pause there for questions.
Any questions, colleagues? And again, as a reminder, because we're sharing the screen here, it's hard for me to see everybody's hands physically raised. So if you do have a question, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom if you're able to. So I'm just sort of scanning now, and I don't see anybody raising their hand, so we can keep going. Thanks.
Great. I will hand it off to Hannah to cover education.
Great. Thanks, Quinn. House Bill 1121, which grants waivers to the graduation requirements during an emergency, has now passed both houses after passing the Senate last week. The childcare licensing fee bill we've been following closely, Senate Bill 5136, was heard in Ways and Means but has not been scheduled for any executive action. Senate Bill 5237, or 1213, which is the big Fair Starts for Kids omnibus childcare bill, was execed out of House Appropriations on last week, with 5 Republicans voting in support, and the Senate bill was also exec last week. A couple other highlights in education: the bill is increasing access to the Opportunity Scholarship, and the school board election qualifications have both been passed to rules. Those are the big highlights for education as things continue to move forward. If there's any questions.
Colleagues, any questions on education? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions on that section. Hannah, I know that in this morning I had an opportunity to talk to Lily and Robin, and V in my office raised the issue of some pretty alarming statistics related to daycare closures across the state of Washington. So we would like to get some follow-up on making sure that the bills that are currently being discussed in Olympia are going to be focused on getting many of those daycare facilities that have been closed because of COVID back up and running. We were already experiencing a desert as it relates to childcare needs, and I think that hearing that upwards of about 17% of daycare facilities across the state have now been closed because of COVID is certainly not going to help the ongoing pressures and demand and needs for childcare services.
Definitely. I know that has been part of the conversation, but we'll continue to advocate and follow up with you on any details there.
Great. Let's keep going.
All right, moving on to the environmental space. A couple key updates here. Most bills made it out of the policy committees last week and are in good shape for fiscal cutoff this week. So I would note just a few companion bills didn't make it past cutoff, but that's unsurprising. Companion bills are few and far between this year, and leadership has really discouraged them. So it's not surprising to see those companion bills drop away early this session. A couple quick updates on House Bill 1084. This is the building decarbonization legislation. The policy committee passed out a slimmed down version of this legislation, and I just wanted to provide some details there. The substitute version of 1084 removes the 70% reduction in annual net energy consumption requirement. It also removes the natural gas surcharge that would be applied to natural gas used in buildings, and it delays the benchmarking for Tier 2 and Tier 3 buildings, which are just smaller buildings, from 2021 to 2022. I would note that it keeps several important provisions that our Office of Sustainability and Environment is keenly interested in. That includes the residential stretch code, which would be really valuable for the city of Seattle and our own local efforts. And it also keeps the heat pump and electrification incentive program that would be started up out of the Department of Commerce, which would help mitigate impacts to low-income and vulnerable populations. So that bill is up for exec now in committee. So we're hopeful that it will continue to move forward. The other bill that I want to provide an update on is 5126. This is the Climate Commitment Act, also known as Cap and Invest. This is the governor request legislation. It's one of the main climate bills being considered this year. Senator Carlisle has been working pretty extensively since the public hearing several weeks ago to address some of the feedback that was received on the governor's proposal, especially with regards to concerns around environmental justice. And late last week, he introduced his proposed substitute. The summary of the substitute is 4 pages long, so I'm not going to be able to go into a lot of detail, but I did want to highlight just a few components. It requires the Department of Ecology to conduct an environmental justice assessment every 2 years, and if emissions are not decreasing, it requires that they adopt more stringent rules and regulations, basically that they tinker with the dials on the Cap and Invest program to ensure that those targets are being achieved for overburdened populations. It requires that at least 35%, with a goal of 40%, of all of the investments from the program are made in marginalized communities and frontline fence line communities. It also adds 2 tribal members to the advisory committee. And then finally, it decreases, one of the chief concerns of the environmental justice community was the ability to use offset programs and offset projects to essentially buy their way, allow companies and polluters to buy their way out of making changes in Washington and in local communities. It reduces the basically the compliance amount that polluters can reach through offsets, from 8% to 5% in the first compliance period, and from 6% to 4% in the second compliance period. Again, I think there's probably more work to be done on this legislation, and it certainly faces, it's necessary to implement the budget. So it's not subject to cutoff, but it's still in its policy committee. So it has quite a long ways to go, but this is sort of the first step in incorporating a lot of the changes and responding to the feedback that the Senate received in committee. So I will pause there for any questions on environment legislation.
Colleagues, any questions or comments on this section? Good. I'm not seeing any hands raised, so we can keep going. Thanks, Quinn.
All right, moving on to general government. A few updates on bills that didn't make cutoff here. First, House Bill 1058 technically has until today to make it out of fiscal cutoff, but it's not scheduled for a vote, and so it will not be moving forward. This would modify the provisions around the sales tax for arts and cultural programs, allowing councilmanic authority and making a few other changes. So that bill is not moving forward this year. Companion legislation for 1264, equity impact statements, did not move forward, but the House version is still alive and well and continues to move forward. I mentioned this, I believe, last week, but a bad bill that we were tracking and working to prevent that would preempt a lot of city's authority around the permitting of telecommunications, 5110, also did not move forward. And then finally, that's in a different section, actually. That's it for general government for me. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Quinn.
Yep.
Lots of information here. Okay, colleagues, any comments or questions on this section? Not seeing any hands raised, so we can continue through the presentation.
Hand it off to Hannah on healthcare.
Okay, thanks. In healthcare, House Bill 1477, which is the National 998 Emergency Hotline, continues to move forward. The substitute was exec'd out of House Finance last week. Representative Orwell has been working with stakeholders to refine the bill and address some concerns over the implementation timeline and the cost. The bill has been referred to appropriations, where it's anticipated that it'll be trimmed pretty significantly. Senate Bill 5068, which is the postpartum Medicaid bill, has been voted out of Ways and Means, and there's good momentum for the policy this year. It looks like the fiscal impacts will not be as significant as thought, so that is good news, especially since that is a bill that was vetoed toward the end of session at the end of session last year. A few bills did not move forward. The products sold to 21 plus, which was a regulation on tobacco and vaping products, and House Bill 1191, which extended healthcare coverage to some undocumented immigrants, creating a parallel system to AppleCare, did not move forward this year. Those are my big highlights in healthcare.
Any comments or questions, colleagues? Okay, looks like there are none, so we can continue.
Thank you very much, Hannah. I just wanted to highlight a little bit of bulletin information. You'll notice that you'll see some strike-throughs on some of the bills. We just wanted to make sure that we indicated the first week after a bill appeared to no longer be moving forward. So we crossed those bills out. And then in order to keep this document under control, bills that have died, we will remove from the bulletin for future versions of it, therefore making it hopefully a little bit easier for us to all keep track of. So I just wanted to highlight that for everyone. As far as housing goes, there's a little bit of a lull in the legislature right now where we're waiting for bills to move to the floor and for floor action to be taken. But one update is that Senate Bill 5160, executive action was taken in the Ways and Means Committee on Friday. So now the bill will be waiting for a vote in the Senate. There were some changes made to the bill. However, I will say, this is the bill, that, puts some parameters around how we will proceed with tenant protections after the end of the eviction moratorium. Some changes were made to the bill, but this is very much a work in progress. I think there are still negotiations going on, so this certainly shouldn't be viewed as the final word on exactly where these tenant protections will land. The just cause provisions of the bill were removed, but the just cause eviction bill is still moving forward, Representative Macri's 1236. So there's a possibility for that to be taken care of in another way still. And of course, we do have just cause provisions at the local level. The landlord also must offer a reasonable schedule for payment of unpaid rent, and there was a qualifier put in that may not exceed monthly payments equal to 1/3 of monthly rental charges. So that limits how much a landlord could charge in any payment plan that's agreed to. I think that's all that I have for housing this week, if there are any questions.
Colleagues, any questions on this section? I have not seen any hands raised, so we can keep going.
Wonderful. Moving on to police reform. Again, here, many bills waiting for action on either the House or the Senate floor. There are still a lot of police reform bills moving forward, certainly indicating the importance that the legislature is putting on this topic this year. There's still at least a dozen bills that would make fairly significant changes to state law in this area. House Bill 1203, Community Oversight of Law Enforcement. That bill was moved out of the House Appropriations Committee last week. There's still work being done on the bill, and we are working to make sure that it's aligned with our civilian oversight in Seattle, which I know I've mentioned a few times on Monday mornings. House Bill 1267, the governor's request independent investigations. Similarly, also executive action was taken on that bill last week, so that bill is still moving ahead. House Bill 1310 on use of force, I had executive action taken out on last week, and is also moving forward. So pretty good shape on all these police reform bills, and otherwise I don't have any other updates this week. But happy to take questions.
Colleagues, any questions on this section? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so we can keep going. Looks like there's no questions.
Sorry, apologies. I actually don't have any updates on the public safety field this week, so we can move along with the briefing. I have to say I must be a little sleepy this Monday morning. Apologies.
Oh, no, that's all right. I thought maybe I'm using new headphones, so I thought maybe I was talking to myself for a moment. So, all right.
I'll hand it back over to Hannah for an update on the safety net and civil rights.
Okay, jumping into safety net, House Bill 1073, which is Representative Berry's paid family leave coverage, is scheduled for executive action today in appropriations. Executive action was taken on House Bill 1297, which is the working families tax credit, and Senate Bill 5214, which is the big TANF assistance bill, also continues to move forward with executive action taken last week. And if I catch up to myself here, Senate Bill 5284, which is the sub-minimum wage bill, prohibits the Washington Department of Labor and Industries from issuing sub-minimum wage certificates after July 2023, passed the House 42-7 last week. And that's the end of my update on safety net.
All right, any questions? I'm not seeing any questions, so I think we're headed into transportation now.
Rounding things out with transportation, not a whole lot to report here. All three bills have made it out of committee and are now in rules in anticipation of floor action. So they've all passed the policy and fiscal cutoff, and will continue to work on them as the session proceeds. Happy to answer any questions.
Colleagues, any questions, comments, things to flag in the area of transportation? I am not seeing any hands raised. So I think that brings us to the conclusion of the presentation, yes?
It does.
All right. Lily or Robin or anyone else, anything else you'd like to add as we bring this portion of the presentation to conclusion?
No, thank you so much for your time today and for all the assistance from many of you who are engaging with legislators throughout the last few weeks. We very much appreciate your time and energy.
Great. Thank you so much, Lily. Well, thanks for being with us. Really appreciate your time and effort. I know there's still some ways to go, but we are happy that you could be with us this morning. Oh, looks like Councilmember Mosqueda has a burning question or perhaps a comment that she'd like to make before I say goodbye to you all. Go ahead, Councilmember Mosqueda.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I wanted to just take a quick second to thank the members of the Office of Intergovernmental Relations team. They have been working with us as we respond to questions and concerns from members of the labor community who were pretty appalled that the Association of Washington Cities signed in con on House Bill 1076. This is the Worker Protection Act, which is largely being lifted up by Washington State Labor Council, AFL-CIO. There are 500 affiliates that are part of the Labor Council, and we as a city have also been supportive of this piece of legislation. This allows whistleblowers to bring actions on behalf of the state for violations of workplace protections. And this is a critical workplace protection piece of legislation. I just didn't want there to be any confusion to the viewing public about where Seattle stands. This is absolutely a piece of legislation that's critical, especially in the wake of COVID and a really treacherous situation where so many workers are in precarious situations. They will be looking for work. They will be in desperate need for salaries and pay, and we don't want anyone to further experience any type of labor violations that would prevent them from coming forward, especially in the wake of COVID. It's critical that we rebuild our local economy in a way that works for working families, especially our lowest wage workers. And workers who are more likely to experience discrimination, including workers of color, members of the LGBTQ community, and immigrants and refugees. So again, House Bill 1076 is something that the city of Seattle is strongly supportive of. And it was pretty shocking to me, and I know my colleague as well on the AWC board, to find out that there was a sign-in of Khan does not represent our position. And I appreciate how quickly our members of the intergovernmental relations team have been working to clarify Seattle's position and seek corrections in how AWC represents their affiliates. This is something that's come up over the years. Council President's familiar with this from 3 years ago. There was an issue that I was working on 2 years ago related to scooters and access to mobility options. And now again, this. So I'm disappointed, but I also want to make sure that I'm clear with members of the public that we are very supportive of 1076 and hope for its continued progress. Director Wilson-Codega, thank you again for your leadership in helping to clarify that.
Not a problem. And I just want to thank the team. I know Robin, Quinn, and Hannah have been doing a lot of work with their contacts within AWC. You guys have some draft communications in your inboxes, so continue to let us know how we can be helpful there. We'll continue to follow up. And I do think in some good news, the bill is in appropriations today, as I understand it. The chair is supportive, so I think that is helpful.
Thanks for lifting up that issue, Councilmember Mosqueda. Really appreciate your service and the service of Councilmember Strauss on the board of AWC. I know it's a lot of hard work and a lot of important issues that go through that particular organization, and really appreciate the opportunity to sort of highlight instances in which we may not be aligned with their legislative efforts. So I appreciate that. Colleagues, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, we are going to go ahead and wrap out this section. Thank you to our OIR team members for being with us. We will see you next week. Until then, thank you and take care. Okay, folks, let's go ahead and move to the next agenda item, which is agenda item 4, which is a preview of today's City Council actions, Council and Regional Committees. And I'll, again, call on council members as established by the rotated roll call for City Council meetings this week. We will start with Councilmember Sawant, followed by Councilmembers Strauss, Herbold, Juarez, Lewis, Morales, Mosqueda, Peterson, and then I will conclude this agenda discussion. So first up is Councilmember Sawant, and then we will hear from Councilmember Strauss. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Council President Gonzalez. On today's City Council agenda, there are no items from the Sustainability and Renters' Rights Committee. The next meeting of the committee, which is normally scheduled for tomorrow, February 23rd, has been rescheduled for March 4th, as I informed the council at our last briefing. And that will be at 9:30 a.m. That's Thursday of next week. And I appreciate committee members working with my office on that rescheduling. And my office has sent the legislation to the council president's office for introduction last week for the right to counsel for renters when they face eviction. And I expect that we will be discussing this in the committee next week. And it has been at our next committee meeting on Thursday and next week. And I expect that it will be on next Monday's introduction and referral calendar. We will also further discuss the problem that I've mentioned before in our past briefings of default evictions. Renters who do not respond to the necessary paperwork or are not present for their eviction hearing are evicted by default. And we've learned from statistical information that this is unfortunately the one of the most common outcomes, if not the most common outcome. In fact, we know that half the evictions might be related to default evictions. The committee will also vote on 4 reappointments to the Seattle Renters Commission. And my office is also preparing to begin appointments to the Green New Deal Oversight Board. As some of you may know, the council and the mayor each appoint 8 positions, and then 3 will be appointed by the board itself. We have received excellent applications already, which we are reviewing. If members of the public have not applied yet and would like to, they can find an application form on my council office blog. I want to say a few words of solidarity to the millions of working people in Texas who are reeling from the energy disaster, and also because the Texas energy nightmare is a warning sign of what could happen nationwide unless working people actively begin the fight for a different kind of society. The rapacious profit motive of the capitalist system has failed to address the climate disaster, and on top of that has created an absolutely chaotic infrastructure situation, which is now resulting in crisis and collapse for most of us, while profits are maximized for a few. Like Enron, for-profit energy companies use all kinds of deregulation and accounting fraud, gaming methods. And in addition to all of that, there has been a new mechanism in the deregulation, which is being called the energy imbalance markets, where electricity is traded like stocks and bonds, but there's not only that they're traded, but there's a perpetual auction mechanism, which is really good for maximizing profits, but absolutely disastrous for providing energy to ordinary people, to tens of millions of customers, and on top of that, completely incapable of dealing with surge demands that are more and more likely to occur because of the climate disaster itself. And I'm proud to say that my council office has, when we were chairing the Seattle City Council's Energy Committee, really pushed back on this energy imbalance market idea. And now we're seeing the disaster. I mean, that's part of the picture. Obviously, it's not the only reason why this disaster is happening, but we're seeing the overall disaster that happens to deregulation. And it's not just Texas. We've already seen this last summer in California, and we're going to see this again and again. Now, after having subjected millions of ordinary people to the misery of days of brownouts, freezing temperatures, human misery, and even deaths, the millionaire and billionaire shareholders of the big energy companies are shameless enough to demand that working people must pay massive electricity bills of thousands and in some cases tens of thousands of dollars. This totally avoidable tragedy demonstrates that electric power is too important to leave to the anarchy of the capitalist markets. And in fact, we need a democratically planned economy, a socialist economy as a whole, because it's not just infrastructure, it's food, it's healthcare, and it's every other major aspect of our economy. The New York Times published a very important article 2 days ago titled "Texas Blackouts Point to Coast Crises Waiting to Happen." I strongly recommend that working people read this article. The article says, quote, and I'll just quote a few sentences from the article, it says, quote, "The crisis carries a profound warning. As climate change brings more frequent and intense storms, floods, heat waves, wildfires, and other extreme events, it is placing growing stress on the foundations of the country's economy, its network of roads and railways, drinking water systems, power plants, electrical grids, industrial waste sites, and even homes. Failures in just one sector can set off a domino effect of breakdowns in hard-to-predict ways. Much of this infrastructure was built decades ago under the expectation that the environment around it would remain stable or at least fluctuate within predictable bounds. Now, climate change is upending that assumption," end quote. In other words, in the entire article, the situation the authors describe is so dire that the article is actually making an argument for a democratically planned economy, even though obviously that is not the intention of the authors. But it's very important for working people and the labor movement and the climate justice movement to have a sober assessment of how dire the situation is and how urgent things are, that we make this make a real shift away, not only away from fossil fuels, but towards democratically owned corporations, especially in the energy and infrastructure sector. I would also say that, just in reference to my earlier point, council members may remember that a couple of years ago, Seattle City Light entered the California energy imbalance market, something that my office was opposed to, similar to the market that created the disaster in Texas. In 2016, when the executive first proposed legislation entering the energy imbalance market, that's when it came to the council committee that I chaired. We amended the bill requiring City Light to propose a far more thorough proposal before council approval. The following year, in 2017, City Light made its full proposal in my committee. I was not convinced and proposed a budget amendment that fall, removing the 2016 legislation. This was a very important step in the the funding for the infrastructure necessary to enter the market. Unfortunately, only current Council President Gonzalez agreed to co-sponsor that budget amendment with me. So it failed for lack of a third sponsor, and City Light has now entered the energy imbalance market. I mean, you see the irony. It's a publicly owned utility, City Light, but overall, the imbalance market itself is highly deregulated and is, and it's as I said, it's a perpetual auction market. Because City Light is a publicly owned utility, we are somewhat safer from the kind of brownouts and shocking electric bills that private for-profit utilities have inflicted on their customers in Texas. But nonetheless, these events should be a warning for all of us, the misery that can be created when energy is treated like a profitable commodity rather than a human need. And most immediately, we need to unite with working people in Texas and demand that they get immediate emergency funding for working people in Texas, paid for by the for-profit utility corporations who created this crisis, canceling all utility bills for working people and struggling small businesses there, taking these for-profit energy companies into democratic public ownership, and just making it like City Light. And really, there should be criminal charges against the energy executives who have caused untold misery through their profit-driven recklessness. And Ted Cruz must resign. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Swan. Any comments or questions on that report? All right. Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and continue going down the line here. Next up is Councilmember Strauss. Good morning.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. There is one item from the Land Use and Neighborhoods Committee on today's introduction and referral calendar, Bringing Business Home, a small business flexibility bill brought forward to you by myself and Council President Gonzalez. Council Bill 120001 modifies for home-based businesses for 1 year to provide flexibility to small and micro business owners who are struggling to stay open during the pandemic. As businesses have been forced to find creative and nimble ways to survive, our land use code has not kept up and too often has held them back. And this legislation fixes that. I'm excited to be introducing this legislation today again with Council President Gonzalez. One example of the impact that this legislation would have, you may have heard about Yonder Cider in Greenwood, which opened last summer and has served cider to go out of their garage. Yonder had to shut down a week ago today because it was found to be out of compliance with our outdated home occupation rules. Now, it's not just about Yonder. In walking around the neighborhood, I have seen pizza shops, I've seen therapists, licensed massage therapists, all of these folks who operate out of their home. Many of them are out of compliance with the sign code or with the parking regulations. And this bill is intended to make this a level playing field so that we can bring vibrancy back to the neighborhoods. And we know small businesses like Yonder make our neighborhoods more vibrant. It gives people in the city more things to do. And it's important that we solve for this problem. So again, this is a temporary provision for the duration of the pandemic, and we'll be using this pilot as a means to study the benefits and drawbacks of this proposal. So colleagues, if you do have any questions, we will be having a briefing in the Land Use and Neighborhoods Committee this week, and I look forward to discussing this more with you. Additionally, there are 8 appointments to the Seattle Planning Commission on today's full council agenda. And the next meeting of the Land Use and Neighborhoods Committee is this Wednesday starting at 9:30 a.m. There are 3 items on our agenda: the briefing and discussion of Bringing Business Home, a small business flexibility bill that was just discussed, and a briefing from the Department of Neighborhoods on their RSJI report, and a briefing from the Urban Forestry Commission on their annual report and 2020 work plan. Just wanted to stop and see, colleagues, any questions on committee work?
Okay, colleagues, we do have an opportunity to have questions and comments on Councilmember Strauss's report. Looks like Councilmember Mosqueda might have a question here. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councilmember Strauss, for your leadership on this legislation regarding the temporary zoning changes for small businesses, storefronts like Yonder. I too had the opportunity to have email conversations with them and was really alerted to it from quite a few neighbors in the area who just thought this was pretty outrageous that they were going to have to shut down, and appreciate you and the Council President moving forward with legislation. It does seem like how we have changed many small infrastructure policies over the last year. This is a great example of where we should continue to look at ways to make our communities more walkable, more livable, more friendly for small businesses. And those street closures should be areas where small businesses can crop up, especially when people are walking by. And I think this is a great example of where we know that parking in front of buildings and fast traffic in front of buildings, even small establishments like the ones that we've heard about from the north end to the south end, they are more likely to have patrons when people can walk and see them from the storefront. So from the street, instead of having cars pass by them or parked in front. So I think it just makes a ton of sense. Looking forward to supporting this and very pleased to hear about you moving this forward. Just a question I had was, are we able to both have a briefing, discussion, and possible vote, or are you planning to do a vote a different meeting?
I believe that the plan right now is to do a vote on the second meeting. So this will just be briefing and discussion. And I'll let you know if that does change. I don't believe that the agenda is officially out. And kind of to your point, we know that many of the most successful businesses in our country and in our world were originally started out of a garage. People's entrepreneurial spirit needs to be given the support to thrive, especially during these times that we're spending so much time at home. And this bill would provide that flexibility to be able to support them in their entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted to call it the garage bill, but it wasn't flying.
Councilmember Strauss and I can find consensus on many things, but the garage bill was one that we couldn't agree on.
So true.
Right.
Council President, I do have a couple more items for my report, unless
Sure.
there's questions from other colleagues.
I didn't have any questions about this particular bill, but did want to take an opportunity to make comments about the bill as one of the co-sponsors, if that's okay with you, before you end your report. Sure. Okay, great. So, colleagues, I think, Councilmember Strauss has done a great job of talking about what this bill does and queuing up some of the substantive policy issues that the bill is intended to address. I absolutely agree. I think this is a common sense policy for the City Council to pursue as COVID-19 continues to keep many of us at home. And this is one way we can be innovative and nimble while addressing our outdated land use regulations that just simply don't make sense during this pandemic period of time. And of course, as Councilmember Strauss has mentioned, Yonder Taproom is a small business that brought to our collective attention this code issue. It is located on a popular Stay Healthy street, and they've done a lot of work to ensure that their business is making every effort to be a good neighbor and to fit into the neighborhood. Of course, they've run into many issues with the Liquor Control Board or other agencies that are designed to ensure that they are meeting public health and business operating requirements. But when it became known that they would have to close due to a home occupancy code issue, Yonder received over 4,000 letters of support from local community members, hoping that they'd be able to stay open and continue to serve the community in its existing model. So at a time when it's not just important to support our local small businesses, but to ensure that they will be with us on the other side of this pandemic, it's also important to make sure that we are creating flexibility and options that will help entrepreneurship and our micro enterprises. So this bill, I believe, will help lower those significant barriers like access to capital that keep many, especially BIPOC entrepreneurs, from starting a business. And we know that right now across the city, one of the most significant barriers to being able to actually become an entrepreneur is rent. That is a real significant barrier for women and for BIPOC entrepreneurs who have the desire and interest to start a business, but the ultimate goal of being able to move into a brick and mortar is elusive for many because of the commercial affordability issues that continue to plague our city. So with many out of work during a pandemic, this change will also, I believe, help Seattle residents start a small business to add much needed income to their households. So this will help us get, I believe, much closer to an equitable economic recovery that will, in addition to facilitating the economic recovery and revitalization of our neighborhood business districts, will also add vibrancy and amenities to our neighborhoods that will help to make our neighborhoods feel more livable and be more livable. So I want to thank Councilmember Strauss for his partnership on this really important bill. I also want to thank members of his team, Noah, Amanda, Allison, and Lena for their leadership, and of course, Dean Nguyen in my office for all her hard work and collaboration with your office, Councilmember Strauss, and really looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have in your committee on this bill. And I'm especially excited about the changes that I think this bill will bring to better support our small businesses across our city. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts about that really important bill so that we can bring businesses home.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. You called out a number of things that I'd like to put a finer point on because you summarized them so well, which is that these businesses still have to meet other regulatory conditions, whether it's Department of Health, Department of the liquor licensing. In Yonder's case in particular, both Department of Health and the Liquor Control Board came out and found them in compliance with their conditions. And it was the fact that we were this land use code was the final barrier. And then, one of the things that really spurred me into action is that we do have these other businesses operating in the district that are out of compliance with our current land use code regulations in this area. And once a complaint is made to SDCI, there's no way to pull that back. And so if any of the therapists, any of the licensed massage therapists, any of the pizza shop in the neighborhood, if there was a complaint filed against any of these businesses, there would be no other course other than to close them down without this bill. And so you brought those points forward, and I just thank you for bringing them forward. You were spot on. Colleagues, any other questions on this bill or?
I don't see any hands raised. Oh, there we go. Councilmember Peterson, please.
I just need to read the bill. I haven't read it yet, so I'll look forward to reading it. My interest is piqued after this discussion, so I'll read it in context of it coming to committee. So thank you for bringing it to committee so we can have a discussion on it.
Great, thank you. So in my other work last week, I joined the Fremont Chamber of Commerce to meet with their members for coffee with the council member. Thank you, Councilmember Peterson, for allowing me to show up late to your committee. My staff also attended the Licton Springs Community Council that evening, which is squarely in Councilmember Juarez's district. So thank you for letting us cross the boundaries. I also attended the Regional Transportation Committee last week and filmed the council edition with Councilmembers Juarez and Peterson, which was a great experience. This coming week, my staff will be attending the Fremont Neighborhood Council. I will be meeting with the Human Services Interim Director, Helen Howell, and I'll be meeting with the Green Lake Chamber of Commerce President, setting up our monthly meetings, as well as I'll be attending the King County Growth Management Council, Planning Council, and the Puget Sound Regional Council Executive Board this coming week. Here in District 6, I continue to hold District 6 resident meetings every week, and I had inspiring conversations last week with neighbors from Finney Ridge, Green Lake, East Ballard, Loyal Heights, Sunset Hill, Greenwood, and just standard Ballard. We did have one sneak in from Magnolia, and Councilmember Lewis, she had already spoken to you, so good work on your office hours as well. We discussed many things. I spoke to one Republican who was raised in Brooklyn, and I had a really great conversation with him. It's nice to be able to disagree and not be disagreeable. We had very pointed conversation, and we came out knowing that we're both in it together to see the success for the city. So that was a really great conversation. We also talked with other folks about crime prevention strategies, behavioral intervention plans, prioritizing pedestrian space on Greenwood Avenue, addressing homelessness across the district, and specifically, why are we not having a felt difference in regards to homelessness, even though we allocated for a surge investment in 2021. I'm sure we'll hear more about that later this week with Councilmember Lewis's committee. Also spoke about the city's response to graffiti, and I just really want to thank district residents for taking the time to meet with me. Again, I meet with residents every week during the day and in the evening as well, so that we can accommodate for your schedule. For the viewing public, you can sign up on my website. I look forward to speaking with District 6 residents this Thursday from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, colleagues. That is my report.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Strauss. Any other comments or questions for Councilmember Strauss? All right, hearing none, we're going to go ahead and go down the line. Next up is Councilmember Herbold, and then after Councilmember Herbold will be Councilmember Juarez. Good morning, Councilmember Herbold.
Good morning. So this week I do have a Public Safety and Human Services Committee meeting that will be tomorrow, Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. The items on the work plan or on the agenda for tomorrow include the Seattle Fire Department presentation on the 2021 work plan. We're also going to hear a first briefing on a piece of legislation. The briefing will be from Council Central staff. The legislation itself is a Seattle Police Department budget bill. It follows from action taken in December in the Finance and Housing Committee. You might recall that this item has been listed on the agenda in previous Public Safety and Human Services Committee meetings, but we've delayed discussion. On January 26th, we ran out of time and couldn't hear it. And then subsequent to that, we have worked to communicate with the monitor on the consent decree after some comments from Judge Robart in the status conference earlier this month. And that also led to a delay in beginning discussions around the bill. Again, this is going to just be an initial very high level discussion. There will be at least 2 additional meetings after tomorrow's committee discussion. The meeting after this one coming up will include an opportunity for SPD to come and present on its requests as it relates to the proposed cut in the bill. There are a number of specific requests that SPD is making as it relates to its budget for 2021. Also, for the committee meeting tomorrow, we had originally planned to have the Human Services Department present on the council-funded $12 million for community safety capacity investments. You may recall that at the last Public Safety and Human Services Committee, we did have a presentation on funding provided for the Seattle Community Safety Initiative. And those are the geographic community safety hubs throughout the city. We had a community-based provider presentation about those dollars, but then this additional $12 million is funding that the council provided for this work. First, we put $10 million aside for this work during the summer rebalancing process, and then folks may recall that that budget was vetoed. We overrode the veto, and because no spending had occurred in 2020, we carried forward the dollars and added another $2 million for a total of $12 million in 2020 to be spent in 2021. This work is a very, very high priority for the council. It's a high priority for the community to address the community safety needs of the city. At the last Public Safety and Human Services Committee, the Human Services Department had indicated they would present the results of their community engagement and landscape analysis. I've been pushing also to bring the proposed spend plan and necessary legislation for council to approve that plan. The budget action that we took does require that the council act to release the dollars, and so HSD is working with the community on development of an RFP. Part of that work includes a landscape analysis to look at where funds are currently being spent. So I'm just taking time in briefings to very lightly touch on this issue. We had, like I said, intended to have a broader discussion in committee next week. I just want my colleagues here on the council to be aware of our efforts to bring this funding and the necessary legislation forward to release it. We found out late last week that HSD would not be able to bring forward their briefing and presentation on this work to tomorrow's committee meeting, but they do intend to do so in early March, at the March 9th Public Safety and Human Services Committee. They have indicated that despite this additional 2-week delay in the presentation and legislation, the overall timeline for releasing the RFP and awarding of contracts will not be delayed. Again, I feel a real sense of urgency in expediting this work. It's intended to provide capacity investments to organizations that are addressing community safety by providing alternatives to policing and the criminal legal system. I've asked Director Howe to provide the draft legislation and landscape analysis results as soon as possible, and I will share them with committee members just as soon as I receive them. As it relates specifically to public health issues, last week I joined the mayor to visit a city-run pop-up vaccination clinic in West Seattle. The clinic was scheduled to serve 750 Latinx and vulnerable elders who were eligible to receive the COVID vaccine. The clinic was run in collaboration with El Comité, the Senior Center of West Seattle, and Villa Comunitaria, and the Seattle Housing Authority. The city ran a second pop-up vaccination clinic in partnership with the Archdiocese of Seattle to focus on vaccinating 350 Latinx older adults in Hillman City. Seniors in South and Southwest Seattle, especially those 75 and older, are lagging significantly behind other parts of King County in accessing vaccine despite being at significant risk of death from COVID. Only 41 elders in Southwest and South Seattle have been vaccinated compared to an average of 56 elders countywide. This is despite Southwest and South Seattle elders having the second highest rate of COVID death in the county. The Latinx community represents only 10% of King County's population, but almost a quarter of COVID cases, and only 7% have received a vaccination. I really appreciate that the city is focusing its few vaccine doses on those who are most impacted by COVID. And really doing everything that we can as a city, given the limited vaccine supply, to address the gaps that we're seeing resulting from the statewide and county rollout. Right now, with that limited vaccine supply, again, the city is focusing on ensuring everyone in phase 1A is vaccinated via the Seattle Fire Department's mobile vaccination teams and working with community partners on temporary pop-up vaccination clinics. When supply improves, again, the city is ready to go to launch mass vaccination sites similar to its COVID testing sites for eligible people in the general public. As far as how testing and vaccine are going, right now we're looking at the Seattle Fire Department having delivered 636,000 tests up through February 19th, and Seattle Fire Department mobile vaccination teams have administered nearly 5,500 vaccines through February 19th. Also want to just note items coming up this week and attended last week. This week, I have the Regional Law, Safety, and Justice meeting coming up. Last week, one of the major events attended was SDOT's virtual open house regarding West Marginal Way and some planned improvements on West Marginal Way as part of the Reconnect West Seattle plan to address the mitigation and traffic needs during the West Seattle Bridge closure. And I think that have virtual office hours coming up this Friday between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Herbold. Any comments or questions on that report? All right, looks like there are none. Thank you so much, Councilmember Herbold. Really appreciate it. Next up is Councilmember Juarez, and then after Councilmember Juarez will be Councilmember Lewis. Good morning, Councilmember Juarez.
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so there are no items on the Public Assets and Native Communities Committee on this afternoon's council agenda. However, there will be a committee meeting on March 2nd at 2 o'clock. We will be holding the hearings for the appeals for the hearing examiner's final report. The report was filed by the February 1st deadline. Right now, we have about 70 appeals that have been filed with the city clerk. So we'll probably hear the first 35 or so appeals at the March 2nd meeting and the second batch of appeals at the April 6th committee meeting. If you have any questions, please contact Eric McConaughey on Seattle or Council Central staff directly per quasi-judicial rules. Update on parks, the Clean City report from February 8th to the 14th. As some of you know, we've been keeping tabs on how the city's money is being spent for the surge in the clean cities. Some clean city crews were diverted to the citywide snow response, resulting in less clean city initiative work than usual, but nonetheless, the stats are as follows. Looks like they picked up almost 700 needles, 80,000 pounds of trash, visited 61 park encampment locations were serviced, and there was a park emphasis located, locations included MLK Memorial Park and St. Mark's Greenbelt. The shower program, there were several days of snow closure over President's Day weekend, which limited the shower program, yet parks served almost 300 users. The severe winter shelters were opened at Bitter Lake and Garfield community centers. Seattle Parks and Rec staff provided a facility and custodial support, conducted outreach and transported people living unhoused, organized supplies and safety equipment, deep cleaned the centers, and more. Recreation staff managed the facilities and worked closely with HSD and the shelter provider to respond to the needs around the clock. The vaccination clinic at, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I say this incorrectly, vaccination clinic at Vanasalt Community Center on Wednesday, February 17th from 11 to 2. Seattle Parks and Rec hosted a community-initiated vaccine clinic at the outdoor basketball court at the Vanasalt Community Center. The Somali Health Board, the East African Community Services, and Othello Pharmacy vaccinated 113 eligible community members. Seattle Parks and Rec provided the permit for the event and access to the outdoor restroom, tables, chairs, and tents. The emergency food distribution, we're still continuing with that program for February 17th. Our nonprofit partner, Food Lifeline, reported that they provided over 1,000 individuals and families with boxes of vegetables, meat, and foods. Last week's highlights, I met with Bellwether Housing and Chief Seattle Club to discuss their plan for building more than 200 affordable units or homes and a longhouse on the North Seattle campus. This is a strong project with amazing partners. We will be approaching our legislative delegation for support. As you know, this has been a long time coming. We've been working on this probably since 2015. This coincides and complements the pedestrian bike bridge that will soon be connecting North Seattle College to Northgate Mall. It spans over 10 lanes of I-5. It will connect to Northgate Mall, the NHL Training Center. So some of the details of the project include this: 2 residential buildings of affordable homes located on campus, serving families from 30 to 80 AMI. Youth care, I'm excited about this, will be providing services and support for youth transitioning out of homelessness with at least 20 available homes, at least 20 homes available to homeless youth. I mean that they can actually stay on the campus. Some of them coming out of high school, that would be Ingram and Nathan Hale, so they can also do the Promise program for their first 2 years of college free. The North Seattle College investment in the Longhouse, and hopefully we're going to push more for Native educational programming, will completely change the campus. As you know, we've been pushing hard to have more of an indigenous footprint north of the Ship Canal. The Longhouse will contribute to a more welcoming environment for Native students and families and increase the number of Native American students enrolled and serve as a resource to the greater community in North Seattle. The expected opening date is 2024. More to come on that. So this is another important community asset that we will welcome and contribute already to the NHL Training Center. The NHL, when we actually open up Seattle Center in October of 2021, the growth of the Northgate Commons, and of course we have light rail opening in fall of 2021. Let's see. Nope, that's not important. Okay, this is important. The week ahead, myself, Brindell Swift, as we speak, and Nagin Kamkar are participating or attending virtually. Usually I go every year to the National Congress of American Indians. Is an organization that's been around for about 75, 80 years. The conference is, right now they're doing the winter conference in Washington, D.C. About 600 tribes participate, and we meet every day this week. In fact, right now I'm listening to the winter session on women, Native women, and missing murdered Indigenous women. The focus will be on building relationships with the new incoming administration, and we're excited this year. Every year we have really great speakers. Right now we're going to have Representative Chuck Schumer, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Lisa Murkowski, Derek Kilmer, and Dr. Fauci will be addressing us later this week. Last year, I was pleased to introduce Kamala Harris at the NCI Women's Honoring Luncheon, and now she's our new Madam Vice President, Kamala Harris. And we are honoring Abigail Elkahawk and the work that she has done nationally. That is a Native American luncheon that I've been participating in for, 27 whole years. And it's focused only on Native women in leadership and tribal leadership. And we always have our congressional delegation there. And so, of course, last year was exciting to have Abigail honored. And so we will continue that. Our president of NCAI is President Fawn Sharp, who is also the chair of the Quinault Nation. Tomorrow, the NCAI will be focused on the congressional confirmation hearing of Interior Secretary candidate Deb Haaland, a good friend of ours. Deb Haaland is currently a congresswoman from New Mexico, an enrolled member of the Pueblo tribe. She's also a dear friend to me and to Indian country. If confirmed, she will be the first Native American Secretary of Interior, not the BIA, the Interior. The Interior was created in the mid-1800s, and it was transferred from the War Department to become its own department. Why they stuck us in Interior with parks and trees, I can only guess. But anyway, that's where we're at. And so we have 5 senators that have put a hold on her confirmation. So I will be up at 6:30 tomorrow to watch it live. And of course, we have been sending letters of support and working with our sisters who are in tribal leadership positions, both state, federal, and within Indian country, to make sure that she is supportive. And I also will be attending the Sound Transit Board of Directors. We're meeting this Thursday, and we will start looking at the realignment scenarios prepared by Sound Transit staff. And I look forward to reporting back on that long process where we finally figure out what the realignment issues will be, what the cost will be, and how we will address the affordability gap. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Juarez. Any comments or questions on that report? Hearing none, I will go ahead and go down the line to Councilmember Lewis, and then after Councilmember Lewis will be Councilmember Morales. Good morning, Councilmember Lewis.
Good morning, Madam President. Thank you so much. There are no items from me on the introduction referral calendar, nor is there any legislation on this afternoon's full council agenda from the Select Committee on Homelessness Strategies and Investments. I do want to flag that this week, on February 24th, the Select Committee on Homelessness Strategies and Investments will meet. On the agenda, first, the Permanent Supportive Housing Bill that my office has been shepherding through since December of 2020 will be up for a final vote in the committee and consideration of amendments. So looking forward to that. And then second, we'll have a presentation from the executive on the shelter surge to identify some of the ways we can work together to expedite and speed along those critical council investments that have been made and overcome some of the hurdles that are currently slowing that effort down. And so I look forward to that presentation so we can really come together as a council and a mayor to get those critical assets stood up as soon as possible. And in that spirit, I do want to give a brief shout out to something I know is an ongoing hurdle that could speed up the tiny houses in particular, which is to exempt tiny house villages from SEPA requirements. This is a longstanding policy goal that's been working its way through the state legislature, and Senator Joe Wynn has a bill in Olympia to do it, Senate Bill 5428. Strongly encourage all members of the public to contact your legislative delegation. This is a priority for the city and for SDCI in their lobbying effort, and my office continues to work along with the offices of many council colleagues to support this legislation. Again, that's Senate Bill 5428, and encourage folks to reach out to your delegation to continue to push this forward, and thank Senator Joe Wynn for his leadership in advancing this important priority. Moving on, I want to give a shout out to the Human Services Department now that we have some data and information from their response to the snowstorm last weekend. Councilmember Juarez shared similar updates to the great work that Parks was doing. The work of the HOPE team in the Human Services Department was feeding folks into some of those shelters that Parks hosted and helped set up and run in the storm. The HOPE team in the run-up to the storm the week before was able to share shelter information with 228 individuals. They provided 199 people with winter supplies and basic needs like food and water. Direct transported 23 individuals to shelter. It's important to note that they were working as part of a broader network of first responders also doing direct transport. So 23 is not the total number of direct transports. It's just the number directly attributed to the HOPE team, but they were coordinating with a broader network. So do want to lift up that the HOPE team did do 23 direct transports just on its own. And I just want to close out by saying, as a former rank and file city employee myself, I greatly appreciate the work that the HOPE team did in being active in the run-up to and during the storm. I appreciate their dogged advocacy and initiative to stand up additional shelter beyond what was originally planned, including the Seattle City Hall shelter, which was open at 8 p.m. on that Saturday to provide additional space given capacity issues at the other emergency shelters. These actions surely saved lives, and I look forward to hearing more about the activities of the HOPE team, which was formed through legislation from Councilmember Morales and myself in the fall, and really appreciate the work they did during that storm. And surely we have more work to do together on building and improving on that, but really appreciate their diligence in a time of difficult crisis. Moving on to some reports from last week and external committees that I serve on, was proud to join Councilmember Morales and Mosqueda at the Board of Health, where we added to the Board of Health work plan after confirming officers. And I don't want to steal Councilmember Mosqueda's thunder, but I was proud to nominate her to serve as our caucus's vice chair on that board, and glad she graciously accepted the nomination and will continue to serve in that role. Councilmember McDermott from the King County Council was reelected as board chairman for the Board of Health. And after resolving those officer elections, we did adopt a work plan, including, as was covered in the news, a conversation around the King County helmet law, which, as reported by David Croman at Crosscut in December of last year, indicated that it is enforced with a very strong disproportionality towards people of color and people experiencing homelessness. Mr. Croman reported that since 2017, at least 43% of helmet law citations were specifically made against people experiencing homelessness. So I look forward to examining the helmet law along with my colleagues on the Board of Health to really grapple with reconciling critical public health goals around incentivizing wearing helmets, but really assessing whether this is an effective deterrent, whether this is working, and really certainly looking at if there's alternative strategies that do not bear the proven fact that this has a disproportionate impact on a lot of people in our community, and almost certainly there are lots of folks not wearing helmets who do not fall into the communities this is disproportionately falling on. So we certainly need to look into the efficacy of that rule and look into ways to change the strategy so that it's not falling heavily on the most vulnerable communities in the city. Moving on, I do just want to digress a little because we did have a lot of public comment in the Finance Committee regarding Just Care. And as some people can probably tell from my background, I'm in the office this morning at City Hall. And as many folks know, when I come to City Hall, I typically walk to work. And when I do that, I walk through downtown, and I did so this morning. And I saw boarded up storefronts that hosted prosperous businesses pre-pandemic. And I saw dozens of our neighbors sleeping in doorways who never experienced that prosperity in the first place. And downtown will recover. We're going to work hard and we're going to make sure that downtown recovers. But we can't wait for the pandemic to completely end to act in mitigating many of the very real impacts that have been experienced by businesses and downtown residents, both housed and unhoused, on a daily basis. And that leads me to the discussion that we heard in the Finance Committee public comment on Just Care, where we heard dozens of community members, many of them my constituents, testifying to the effect that Just Care has had on their businesses and to their neighborhoods. And for those unfamiliar, Just Care is an outreach, shelter, and diversion program that's composed of and supported by a consortium of providers, community leaders, and business leaders, including the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program through the Public Defender Association, the Chief Seattle Club, the Asian Counseling and Referral Service, REACH, Community Passageways, the Alliance for Pioneer Square, and the Downtown Seattle Association, among many others. Just Care specifically reaches out to individuals with very high barrier needs, who also have a high likelihood of potentially being criminal legal system involved or being the source of high frequency disorder complaints, and offers them placements in hotels with support staff to help meet their underlying needs and also help respond to the needs of business districts that have high concentrations of folks with these high barriers to success. Of the 194 people that Just Care has provided outreach to, only 4 have refused assistance, and 124 of them have been successfully placed into a hotel with support services. Over 3/4 of these folks have reported needing mental health support, and nearly 2/3 have reported an addiction to meth, among other drugs. I meet with small business owners in my district in Pioneer Square and South Downtown on a regular basis, and they've told me that Just Care has been one of the only interventions during this pandemic which has successfully and visibly moved a person in crisis from their doorway to a place where they can get help and assistance, improving quality of life for that person and for the business owner both. But we know that Just Care, a mostly county-supported program, faces certain shutdown next month unless some arrangement can be reached to keep it going. And based on pre-existing relationships with hotels and providers, Just Care could thrive and could more than double its caseload to nearly 300 individuals within its existing capacity. And they could do that through to this fall, when we anticipate the stand-up of larger shelter capacity from tiny homes and enhanced shelter will come online. This week, I'm going to work with King County, with the mayor's office and council colleagues to try and find some kind of solution to keep this critical work going before it turns into a pumpkin in March. Emphatically, and I cannot make this point strongly enough, given the state of downtown, regardless of what your opinion on how you characterize the root causes or anything else, downtown cannot have 124 more individuals who are suffering from meth addiction and behavioral mental health conditions to leave the hotels where they are currently getting their needs met and go back to the downtown neighborhood. To the contrary, we have to commit as a region to offering more people who are similarly situated an opportunity to get off the street. And I stand with a diverse coalition in this goal, including the Public Defender Association, Community Passageways, the Downtown Seattle Association, and the Alliance for Pioneer Square. Business districts, business owners, providers, community leaders are all standing together on this, saying we need to come up with a solution together and we need to do it collaboratively. So together, we can create a plan to provide this compassionate service and public safety for all of the people in the city. And we need to really start with leaning into this program to make sure the folks who are currently getting this care and are not still in the Chinatown International District and Pioneer Square streets are continuing to get that help that they need, but also make sure that we can support that plan to get up to its shovel-ready capacity, for lack of a better term, of about 300 individuals, because it is making a visible difference. And we still have a long way to go, as all of us know. So with that, hopefully I will have more to say by briefing next week. But a lot of folks out there in the community expect a call, because this is going to be something that we need to really work on this week to meet the deadlines that have been set down based on the timeline of the existing program. So appreciate that opportunity to digress on that a little bit more, and looking forward to this week.
Thank you, Councilmember Lewis, for that report. Colleagues, again, if you have any comments or questions, please do let me know. I see Councilmember Mosqueda is in the queue, and we'll hand it over to her, and then Councilmember Morales after that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councilmember Lewis, for your report. I want to again appreciate the line of testimony that we heard for almost 45 minutes on Friday afternoon in the Finance and Housing Committee that I chaired. And to every single person who spoke, the success of the program was highlighted. The imperative call for action was underscored, that if we don't help to support Just Cares in this moment, folks will be lining up to get tents as they leave current housing, and that's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable to say that this is a King County program and thus a King County problem to solve. It is unacceptable to tell stakeholders that they should be calling King County to work it out. It's unacceptable when the folks that are being served by Just Cares are, as you said, in Pioneer Square, in the CID, and many of the business owners that I spoke to on a call coordinated with the BIA teams spoke about the importance of this work, really removing those folks from the street who want to get into housing, removing them from some of the criminal elements that we see basically preying upon people and their vulnerabilities, wanting to move folks off of the street to get those who need housing and into housing. Just Cares has created that trusted model. So it is absolutely something that I will be supporting. Look forward to working with you on this and making sure that we have our strong partnership with King County lifted up as we think about coming together, holding hands in this effort to respond to the crisis that is homelessness, that's only been exponentially made worse by COVID. And appreciate your comments here today. Look forward to working with you and our council colleagues as we look for immediate solutions so that no one is lining up to receive a tent walking out of housing and into our streets. We should be helping folks fold up their tents and walk into housing, and that's what Just Care model offers. So thank you very much for highlighting the success, the data behind that success, and for the work that we'll be doing this week on that effort. Appreciate your leadership.
Thank you, Councilmember Mosqueda. Councilmember Morales.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councilmember Lewis, for that update and summary. I'm not a member of that committee. Well, I'm an alternate, but I wasn't there. And so it's really great to hear that there is so much public support for this program that we know has an acute impact on the folks who are participating, who get referred, who get housing, and also has an acute impact on the businesses that are struggling downtown. So I am really glad to hear that there is so much support and so much commitment to ensuring that this program continues to get funded. I'm happy to lend a hand in that effort and really look forward to finding a solution to this, because we know that this problem, the problem of homelessness is not going away anytime soon. The COVID crisis continues, and we need to make sure that folks are safe. And a program like this that has such a profound impact on our neighbors and in our downtown businesses is something that there is no reason for us not to be supporting. So I want to thank you for your leadership and look forward to helping get this through. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Morales. Any other comments or questions on this report? Councilmember Herbold, please.
Thank you. I too want to echo my thanks and appreciation to Councilmember Lewis for bringing this forward. I think it's very, very important that this council do everything it can to act, but it must be said, I believe, and the public must understand that our ability to affect change in this area is limited to passing legislation to appropriate funding. In order to effectuate the goals that we are seeking to have as a result of funding, namely the continued funding of this program, Just Cares, after March 15th, the goals of the community members who attended Councilmember Mosqueda's committee last week, we need the executive's support for this program. That is the bottom line. The mayor's office and the departments need to appropriate the funding that the council makes available. And when we have a situation where the mayor's office is saying this is a county program, when the county has really gone up, above and beyond in addressing the needs in these two neighborhoods over the last 6 months, we need to step outside of the mindset that just because the county funded it for the first 6 months that we cannot do our part. This council has over and over and over again appropriated funding for different hoteling strategies, and not a penny has been used. So we really, really desperately need the support of the executive in addressing these urgent needs. And I hope that we will be able to turn a page and see that that we have it after this next action. Thank you.
Councilmember Lewis, please.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I wanted to respond briefly about kind of this question of exactly where the dividing lines are going to be in terms of how we continue along with Just Care, because, one component that I think gets ignored sometimes in where there is sort of that nexus with the county is, like I mentioned in my presentation, a number of the folks who are engaged in Just Care are people who had pre-pandemic had a lot of exposure to the criminal legal system, and in non-pandemic circumstances might be experiencing incarceration in the King County Jail. And no, I'm not bringing that up to endorse incarceration as a tactic to address mental health or drug addiction, but I am acknowledging kind of where things were before the pandemic and sort of the shuffle that was made last spring to figure out a way to have some kind of alternative place to put folks who in other circumstances might have been in jail but could not be in jail because of the pandemic, because the jail has been de-intensified and reduced. That is a county facility. That is a broader county issue, caseload issue. So I think that there is still a role that we should explore in terms of how there can be some kind of coordinated effort with the county to keep this going. So I don't want to completely say that we shouldn't continue to explore that route, because I think there is a very real reason why this was kind of housed with the county in the first place. And at a certain level, it was as a kind of criminal justice diversion strategy that has evolved to something bigger than that. But it certainly still has implications for King County caseload. So I think that there's a way, just as I said earlier in my comments, that we should be talking to a broad array of stakeholders in terms of what our plan is as a council and how we want to step into this. So I'm being less prescriptive right now than I might be at briefing next week in terms of what I think we should exactly do. But I do think there are some very real reasons why the county is a critical stakeholder here and someone we should continue to talk about in how to effectuate this partnership to keep Just Care going. It should also be noted, just as a last comment, and this is something I talk to business owners about all the time, is they'll talk about how they call SPD to to have some kind of response to someone camping in their doorway or who's causing chronic problems, for example, right? Because the machinery of the King County Jail has been greatly slowed down due to the limited number of bookings and de-intensification, that contact typically does not lead to that person being in a position where they won't come back to that doorway, because officers are limited in being able to obtain a booking from King County. Whereas with Just Care, when someone is semi-permanently placed in a hotel room with supportive services, that person will stay there with their needs getting met instead of going back to that business owner's doorway. And I think that that's another important context setting thing to discuss.
Councilmember Herbold, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to clarify my statement that we should not use the fact that this started off as a King County program as a reason to justify not supporting it now. In no way was intended to suggest that we not continue in partnership with King County. Thank you.
Okay, excellent points. I think that sort of for additional context in the spirit of what Councilmember Lewis was saying, and sort of to thread the needle between that and what I'm hearing you say, Councilmember Herbold, is, we're either in this as a region or we're not. And creating false lines about who funded what first, to me, signals that we're perhaps not as wholly committed to this regional effort as we should be. So if we are truly in this as a region, it doesn't matter if King County cut the first check or the size of that check. What matters is does it and will it, continuing to support Just Care, will it advance what I think our common goal is here, which is to get folks inside in a way that is much more effective than other systems that we currently have in place. And it certainly seems to me that this program lends itself very well to our overall strategic conversations and to our overall goals to bring people inside and to have places to navigate folks to that is safer, that will both be safer for the people experiencing homelessness and will also help to address some of the concerns related to impacts of those who are experiencing homelessness in downtown. So I look forward to the conversation as well. Councilmember Lewis, stand at the ready to be helpful in any way that I can to this effort, and look forward to continuing to learn more and identifying clear ways that the council can be supportive, but also, to Councilmember Herbold's point, ways that we can incentivize this administration to fulfill council's intent as it relates to these strategies. Of course, we all know that we're having this conversation in the context of having funded 6 months ago hoteling at a significant scale, only to see and hear that hasn't come to fruition. So I think it's important for us to have the conversation around what we want to see accomplished, but we also have to have a very transparent conversation and forward conversation about what happens if the folks who are responsible for implementing our intent, which is this administration, if they choose to not do anything, then we will continue to see the impacts and that I know many of us get engaged about on a daily basis related to the realities of the state of downtown. Anything else, colleagues, on this issue? I know we're going to have a lot more conversations about this in coming committee hearings, and appreciate that. Okay, looks like that concludes this conversation. We're going to go ahead and go down the line here. Councilmember Morales is next, and then Councilmember Mosqueda. Good morning, Councilmember Morales.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you. There are no items from the Community Economic Development Committee on today's agenda. The next meeting will be this Friday at 9:30, where we will have a slew of appointments, and we will also be hearing the final presentation of the Black Brilliance Research Project. As you know, this is the preliminary research, not the participatory budget process itself. In order to begin that process, my office will be meeting this week with the executive's office, begin discussion about implementation, and to talk about creating a spending plan for implementation. We need to approve an ordinance approving the spending plan in order to lift the proviso that funds the beginning of implementation. So we'll be beginning those conversations, and my hope is that by the March meeting, my March meeting will be able to move that forward. On today's agenda, we do have Resolution 31993, endorsing the creation of the Rainier Valley Creative District. This resolution supports the application to establish the district as submitted by Fua Kuyate of the Adefua Cultural Education Workshop and the Planning Committee of the Rainier Valley Creative District. You may know District 2 is the most diverse district in the Seattle area, and the Rainier Valley is a cultural hub, home to many artists, musicians, performers, and cultural institutions, really influenced a rich history, and that really continues to shape the legacy of South Seattle today. So it's my hope that with this creative district designation, we'll not only preserve the cultural legacy, but really lift up and empower the younger generation to contribute to it. As we start to plan for post-pandemic recovery, we want to ensure that it is just and equitable, that it centers communities who've been most marginalized. That's why it's really crucial that South Seattle have a platform to elevate the work of artists and cultural workers who make our city a vibrant place to live, as well as creating new economic opportunities for residents in this part of the city, which has historically been underserved by government institutions. So I look forward to our discussion and vote this afternoon. The second round of PPP loans will become available this week for small business. There will be some important changes to this round to address the problem of some smaller businesses had getting crowded out. So starting Wednesday, there will be a 2-week period when only small businesses with fewer than 20 employees can apply. And there's also some important changes to the funding formula that will support contractors or sole proprietorships who don't have payroll, just an owner, so that they can participate too. There will also be some eligibility changes, so it no longer bars owners with felony convictions or those who have defaulted on their student loan. These changes will make it easier for micro businesses, women-owned businesses, and those owned by people of color to get a meaningful opportunity to engage in the application process and to get the access to capital that they are often denied. Moving on to district, last week I met with community members and several folks from Safeway to discuss safety improvements in their parking lot. This is an ongoing conversation. Those meetings will continue in an effort to create a partnership between the store and the community organizations that are doing community safety work on the ground. This week, I'll also be meeting with residents, local business owners, homeless outreach service providers, and the Southeast Crime Prevention Coordinator in the Mount Baker neighborhood to discuss community safety issues there. And then I will also be attending the virtual groundbreaking of Uncle Bob's Place. I'm very excited about this new development of the Interim Community Development Association. This housing project, which will include a mix of studio, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units for low-income families, honors the legacy of Bob Santos, Seattle's legendary, well, he's just a legend in all kinds of ways, but he's also a legendary housing activist who really helped lead the fight to preserve the culture and the cohesion of the Chinatown International District. Looking forward to joining Interim and the CID community for this event on Thursday. Colleagues, that is my report.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Morales. Any comments or questions on that report? All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and move over to Councilmember Mosqueda. Good morning.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. There are quite a few items. I will try to be brief here. There are no items on today's full council agenda from the Finance and Housing Committee, though I am very much looking forward to voting on Resolution 31993 as we continue to see pressure in the South End to develop and redevelop. We are seeing gentrification increase, and I really appreciate that this resolution calls on us to both create and support efforts to minimize displacement and maximize the preservation of community spaces as we also work to build new affordable housing and housing units of all types across our city. So really appreciate this community-led effort to push for creative strategies in that district. From the Finance and Housing Committee report, our next Finance and Housing Committee will be on March 2nd at 9:30 a.m. We will take time to have a briefing, discussion, and possible vote on the capital projects watch list. Folks from my committee will note that on Friday, we did not have a chance to get to this item, so we will do both the briefing and possible vote on March 2nd. If you do have any amendments, and this goes for the entire council, please do take a look at the watch list. We would very much like to entertain any additional items or possible amendments to that list on that March 2nd date so that we can have that discussion in committee and bring forward to the full council a hopeful final proposal for your consideration. So if you do have any edits for any of our council colleagues, please let us know. I'm going to shoot for noon on Wednesday. If you can send those over to our office or work with central staff on those amendments, that would be greatly appreciated. We've already talked a little bit about the conversation we had in the Finance and Housing Committee last Friday, and I wanted to provide a summary for all council members on some of the key takeaways from the last presentation offered by the City Budget Office, from our Intergovernmental Affairs team, and especially thanks to Leslie Polner, who is from Holland and Knight, our federal representatives in the halls of Congress. Really appreciate the walkthrough of the presentation. If you haven't had a chance to look at the detailed PowerPoint, it is online, or our office can share that with you. Some important highlights for you all from that conversation. We learned that the reimbursement for King County for federal assistance has been about 6 months. So the King County partners have received their funding for the first 6 months of their COVID relief efforts already, which is great news. This is helpful for us as we seek to get FEMA reimbursement. Our past experience has been much longer than that, and we know that we need to be working as fast as possible to receive FEMA reimbursement and not have that delay in reimbursement affect our programming and supportive services that we want to get out the door. So hearing that from both our federal representatives, having that underscored as well at the RPC meeting last week, and again, us asking questions about the reimbursement timeline in committee last Friday, gives me hope that we will be on a much faster timeline than originally anticipated to receive that allocated funding from the feds. We also learned that the City Budget Office has submitted $5 million request for reimbursement in October 2020, and that they will soon be submitting for another $10 million in FEMA reimbursement requests. This is a total of $15 million for the year 2020. The timeline for when, and I will note that that is less than the amount of money that we originally thought that they were going to be submitting for. Over 30 million is what we originally thought. So I think that there is ongoing questions about how quickly we can also get the other allocation out the door and hopefully be able to still get reimbursement for those dollars as well. The timeline for when the COVID relief funds, the CRF funds, which were around 130 million, and we received those in 2020, we knew that we must expend those dollars as fast as possible, but we have now learned that we can spend the remaining amount that's left over through September 2021. There's about $28 million of unspent CRF funds, but 10.9 million of that was allocated specifically for various purposes within departments. We did ask for clarification on what those specific dollar amounts were allocated for and what the plan is for the remaining 17 million, which I think gives us some opportunities for future council direction or conversations with the executive about how we'd like to see that remaining amount used. The CBO also reported in their presentation that there is about 17 million, as I mentioned, and I wanted to reiterate, this was about 25% of the funds that we were holding back just in case the city needed to match the amount. But now, given that the expenses from FEMA reimbursed efforts are going to be able to receive full reimbursement it gives us the opportunity to think about how we can use that $17 million. Because the revised FEMA guidance from the Biden administration just last month will now provide 100% reimbursement for FEMA eligible expenses, and that applies retroactively. So the city will not need funding for the 25% match or the roughly $17 million that we were holding back. However, I want to reiterate something the CBO had said. CBO has suggested that the contingency still makes sense if any of the requests for reimbursement are rejected. And central staff is working to verify that number and council to make sure that council has an understanding of what may be available for other city needs. We also know that there are some restrictions apparently that will be applied to those FEMA dollars. That was noted by the CBO. But as our council colleagues said in the committee meeting, many other cities are moving forward with spending those FEMA dollars, assuming that there is going to be 100% FEMA reimbursement. We see this in Los Angeles and San Francisco with their immediate use of those dollars for standing up hotel rooms. Very similar to the strategy that Councilmember Lewis, myself, Councilmember Herbold, Morales, and Gonzalez all spoke about in response to Councilmember Lewis's presentation this morning. And I think that there's a huge sense of urgency to want to make sure that we are using the FEMA dollars and that we're not holding back any money or holding back any of our proposals, not waiting for there to be greater clarification when we see other jurisdictions moving forward. Director Noble assured us that there will not be any delay and that cash flow would not be an issue. This is really important for us to continue monitoring and working in partnership to make sure that the 100% of the FEMA reimbursable efforts do get out the door. So what to expect next? We talked a little bit about dollars that we're carrying over. We talked a little bit about this issue of wanting to move with expediency to make sure that programs and services like Just Cares quickly move forward. And now we know that we will have roughly around $221 million to the city of Seattle from, fingers crossed, this new federal assistance that is going to be authorized by Congress. So this is a huge opportunity for cities across the country, cities like ours who stepped up and acted with urgency to continue to be able to provide needed services and help fill in the gaps where we have seen a lot of unmet need, even in spite of our efforts to try to get money out the door through our early COVID relief funds and applying the COVID relief dollars from the federal dollars and anticipated use of the reserves, knowing that Jumpstart revenue was coming in the door. This is an opportunity for us to do more assistance to small businesses, food insecure families, housing assistance and affordability issues, making sure that there's the permanent supportive housing to complement any shelter services, and that we do this with an equity lens as we seek to implement these new federal dollars. The new announcement from the federal partners or from our federal lobbyists also came with a caveat that we should remember that this is probably the last time that the federal delegation will be able to step in and offer COVID relief through congressional action. And while we are very much appreciative of the federal dollars for COVID relief and recovery efforts, we need to think about both the short and the long-term needs, given that the sources of revenue from the federal congressional effort are both an effort to try to make sure that we're rebounding our local economy and responding to the immediate crisis that we see so many families dealing with. So we're going to work on that balancing act and make sure that we respond to those immediate needs and think about the longer term systemic investments to strive towards and create the foundation for a more equitable recovery when considering this next round of federal dollars. We've done a lot, colleagues. I'm very proud of the work that you all did. The initial package that we passed at $86 million for COVID relief, the eventual compromise down to $45 million over 2 years still provided a tremendous amount of relief, especially to immigrant families through cash assistance, to working families through food assistance, to small businesses, and to hardworking folks across the city who are most vulnerable. On Friday in committee, I noted that we in my office will be working on a draft resolution for your consideration, input, and edits to indicate additional priority investments for the new federal resources. building on those conversations that we had early last year as we crafted the COVID relief proposal, and building on subsequent conversations I know many of us have had with community members, including folks who need ongoing rental assistance, small businesses who need flexible dollars to open back up, and to hire folks to change their places of employment to make them more protective of both employees and patrons. We know that we've learned a lot in the last few weeks and months about what is actually continued to be needed right now. And so we are going to be working on coming up with a resolution that helps put some parameters and direction for how these federal relief dollars can and should be used. You can expect to see a draft from us for your input later this week, as we'd like to make sure that the full council has a chance to see that early. So we will be working to get that out and with the council president's office published as soon as possible so that we can get folks' feedback on that. We'll be circulating the resolution later this week and look forward to any amendments that you may have in the committee on March 2nd, again at 9:30. In terms of updates, we have an update from the Office of Labor Standards. I want to let you know Office of Labor Standards launched 6 interactive dashboards last year to provide the public with detailed information about technical assistance, worker inquiries, open, filed, and resolved investigations, and worker remedies. The dashboard can be viewed at the OLS website. It's updated quarterly, and these dashboards contain information through the end of 2020, which reflect the work that OLS did to assess just over $7.8 million in financial remedies for almost 10,000 workers in the year 2020. They answered over 10,000 questions about the laws during their office's short lifespan, and they will be updating that dashboard quarterly. Excellent example of transparent government services and how those dollars are being put to work in enforcement and education. Appreciate that at OLS. From FAS, we heard quite a bit of updates already on the vaccination and planning efforts that include partnership with FAS. I'll just note that FAS has been working very hard to sign an MOA between Public Health and Seattle-King County to assist King County residents with access to vaccination sites via the phone. As we've heard, so many elders and folks who are vulnerable don't have access to high-speed internet, a computer, maybe even a smartphone. Heard about some examples this morning on NPR. Folks heard that report as well. The phone is often the best place for seniors to be able to get the information about how to access vaccines. And in preparation for the influx of calls related to vaccines, FAS's hotline responsibilities will be expanded so that staff can schedule King County vaccine appointments as well. In terms of the payroll tax, thanks again to FAS for their ongoing work with Jumpstart Seattle's payroll tax rulemaking. They've conducted their first payroll expense training on February 10th. There were 108 people in attendance, and they will continue to get feedback, to provide assistance, make sure that the rulemaking is easy to understand. And we really appreciate FAS's continued work with businesses who are payors into the Jumpstart payroll tax to get feedback on how the current rules and application are going, and make sure that we are doing everything we can to take away the guesswork and make it easy for employers to understand the responsibilities under this new law. Look forward to working with FAS and also the large businesses who are seeking to comply with this bill to make sure that we are making this as easy as possible. Appreciate FAS's report on that. And then in terms of the preparation that FAS did for the city's response to the snow and ice, they provided 24/7 support through the entire weekend last weekend, filling requests for over 150 blankets for emergency shelters. They worked through FAS's janitor team to remain on site during the winter weather storm to conduct removal and provide assistance. The warehouse team transported goods and filled requests during the worst part of the storm on Sunday morning, delivering cots, blankets, and friendly ice melt to animal shelters and to departments. The fleet management team coordinated shops for employees to cover 12-hour day shifts and nights, and FAS's property management team prepared tenants for the upcoming event by dropping off snow melt, additional shovels, and coordinating the vendor response in the days leading up to the event. It takes a village to respond to these types of emergency response to this really terrible weather for those living outside and for those in our city who need to continue to provide services. They did a great job. Lastly, thanks to Councilmember Lewis for noting the vice chair position at Board of Health. Appreciate the support from both Councilmember Lewis and Councilmember Morales to continue to serve as your vice chair for our caucus at the Board of Health. It really, if you've served with me over there, you know that I love serving on that board. And just a few updates from our partners at Board of Health. Director Duchin and Patty Hayes provided an update last meeting that we had last week to note that the mayor and Seattle Fire Department have been good partners with Public Health Seattle King County to get vaccines to individuals who are now eligible for the 1B1 category, specifically older individuals living in subsidized housing, focused on areas in South Seattle and Central Seattle. This includes work with partners at Seattle Housing Authority, Bellwether, Seattle Chinatown International District, Preservation and Development Authority, Catholic Community Services, and SEIU 775. I will be going to volunteer at the 775 clinic today in Rainier Beach, and really appreciate our union partners and all of the work that they've been doing with the fire department, our city, and King County to help make sure that our most vulnerable care providers and their clients are able to access vaccines who are eligible. Really honored to be able to be there. Lastly, want to make sure that folks know Councilmember Herbold had an amazing alert today. If you haven't yet looked at her alert, I'm sure it's on our blog. You can also get updates to what the city has been up to in related to vaccines by signing up for alerts, and make sure to go and sign up for email alerts there. Folks can visit seattle.gov/vaccines to constantly get information in 7 different languages about how to access that information. And Council President, lastly, as Kairos 7 reported over the weekend, among numerous different outlets who've been reporting on this nationally, attacks against Asian Americans are on the rise. They are on the rise across this country and including in Seattle, targeting our elders in the community and folks who are from the Asian community. In King County prosecutors have already filed 5 hate crime charges so far this year. 2 of them are because of attacks on Asian Americans. On January 25th, one woman in Seattle was pushed over in a crosswalk while crossing in Denny. And according to court documents, a person said to her, things I'm not going to repeat here because they don't deserve that kind of airtime. The type of attacks that we're seeing across this country demand for all of us, including especially public officials, to continue to step up and condemn and denounce any and all anti-Asian sentiment in any forms. This is true before COVID, and it's especially true now post-COVID as we see these types of hate crimes continue to skyrocket in the wake of COVID. Our office will be working on a resolution in the upcoming week, and would love to work with your offices as well to do what many other jurisdictions are doing, including what one of our friends in New York had led on late last year to condemn all manifestations of expressions of racism, xenophobia, discrimination, anti-Asian sentiment, scapegoating, or other ethnic or religious intolerance, recognize that the health and safety of all Americans, including Asian Americans, no matter their background, must be our utmost priority, and calls on federal law enforcement officials working with state and local officials to expeditiously investigate and document all credible reports of hate crimes and threats against Asian American community in Seattle, and to collect data to document the rise of incidents of hate crimes due to COVID, and to hold accountable perpetrators of those crimes, incidents, or threats, hold them accountable and bring those perpetrators to justice. I look forward to working with all of you, as I know every one of our council members supports making sure that our Asian community in Seattle is feeling protected and respected, especially in these times post-COVID. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Mosqueda. Any comments or questions on that report? All right. Thanks, Councilmember Mosqueda. I had those same exact talking points in my script for this week. I did have an opportunity to have a really good conversation with Ben Henry from the International Examiner last week, where I also reiterated many of the points that you made, that those kinds of deplorable, hateful acts in our community against members of the API community are absolutely abhorrent and unacceptable, and folks must be held accountable to that, accountable for that behavior. So much solidarity to our friends in the API community who continue to unfortunately be subjected to these abhorrent racist acts, and we will stand with them in the face of such hatred to make sure that they feel supported within our city. Councilmember Herbold, please.
Thank you. I just want to add the Mayor Durkin enacted last February an emergency order regarding hate crimes. I'd like to share that emergency order with council members as a reminder that there were deliverables associated with that emergency order, deliverables that were scheduled to be received last October. And to my understanding, because of COVID-19, that work as anticipated or as planned by the executive order has not been done. And my recollection is the reason why it was not done was because the executive pointed to funding vulnerabilities associated with COVID-19 that made it difficult for them to fund and staff the work. And much of the approach identified in the deliverables is actually now being led by King County government, which actually used COVID-19 as a way to get funding for this work, making the argument, rightly so, that under COVID-19, hate crimes have increased. And so using that argument that hate crimes had increased, they were able to successfully secure CARES Act funding to do some of this work. So I'm still making inquiries of the executive departments that are supposed to be doing the work as contemplated in the executive order, and I'm happy to share with folks what I found out offline. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, folks, and looks like there are no other questions on this particular issues. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this section of the agenda by giving my report. It is brief here. Give me just a minute as I fumble around my multiple screens trying to find it. There is nothing on this afternoon's full council agenda from the Governance and Education Committee. We are scheduled to have our regular committee hearing, and that will be on, I believe it is Tuesday. Hold on a minute. Sorry, I'm having some technology difficulties on my end. There we go. It will be on Tuesday, March 9th at 2:00 p.m. I already spoke about the item on the introduction referral calendar that I'll be co-sponsoring with Councilmember Strauss, and really looking forward to the ongoing conversations there. I don't have anything else to report out related to my committee business, and am happy to take any questions or comments on what I have already reported. Okay, and then I will follow up with you, Councilmember Juarez, around issues for this afternoon. I understand you may not be available to attend all or a portion of this afternoon's meeting. So if that's the case, we'll just need to know in advance so we can make a motion at the top of the agenda and get you excused.
Okay, thank you.
Sound good? Okay. Thanks all. That does conclude our meeting. We'll see you this afternoon at 2:00. Bye-bye.